So, yeah, Bryce Harper, pretty clearly the face of baseball. You put out a tweet yesterday of, like, whose career would you rather have, 130? It's such a prisoner of the moment take because clearly
I was surprised how many answers I got on the other side, though. Maybe people saying Mike Trout. Whose career would you rather have? They're like, yeah, it's not comparable.
Here's the thing. If you removed everything from it, like, I would rather be Bryce Harper because I think he's cool.
Mhm.
Like, I think he's got that, and I actually don't think he's cool, but
No,
I mean,
he's
like,
not
he's
cool.
got
He's-
he's got an edge to him. What I mean is, like, there's almost a little
On
bit
the
of Kenny
field.
Powers to him, where if
Yeah.
he showed up on a panel show,
Mhm.
you would be excited to watch. Whereas if Mike Trout sat down on a panel show, like, imagine you could tell people, hey, I'm bringing Bryce Harper to this party, even though I don't think he drinks. But just to have him there and be like, ooh, and the haircut and the way
Like,
that he
who
carries
do you
himself.
think, like,
But
is-
you bring
is-
Mike Trout and people would go, don't
but-
bring him. They would say, hey, we want to have fun tonight. Don't bring Mike. Don't bring Michael. And he's like, actually, isn't he a Phillies fan too?
Yes, he's a
so
Phillies
he'd be
fan.
there
He's an
being
Eagles
like, isn't it
fan.
cool?
Yeah.
But Bryce
He's
is
also
doing.
a fan of weather. But yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Bryce Harper has cultivated this image, which, maybe he's leaned into, maybe he's become, but this is a guy that since like 5 years old was destined to be a professional baseball player. You're right. I think he's Mormon. Like he's probably not doing too many things untoward or exciting off
He's
the
gotta be
field of play.
Well, actually, Mormonism undercover, not great, but publicly baddest Mormon boy.
Bryce Harper is?
Yeah. Is he Mormon?
I thought he was. I thought that's.
Yeah?
I grew up in Las Vegas though, so I'm not 100% sure.
Oh.
I mean, he is. Yeah, you want to talk about? Actually, there are some indicators that he might be more than just the persona. Remember, he's dogged it a couple of times. Jonathan Papelbon strangling him in the dugout.
That was a great clip. I got to talk to Papelbon about that.
Yeah, we talked to Papelbon.
Everybody talks to Papelbon about it.
He
I
talks a
guess.
lot.
Yeah.
So you're not special.
He is Mormon, by the way.
Yeah, I thought he might have been Mormon. So
No comment.
No offense
all
to
right,
Mormons, but probably not like
it's
the
not a
most
lot of
exciting hang.
Not a lot of. Yeah, I was gonna say South Park. That's all.
Yeah.
I agree. Moving on. My point here is that. So he's clearly become the face of baseball. I love that he's just unapologetically him, but you also do have to be great because when you're unapologetically you and it doesn't work out, you can end up with the Dylan Brooks stuff that happened last year, right? Which is you can get absolutely pasted by media, fans. It's probably overwhelming for someone like that, to be honest. I know that we all think, hey, just put your phone away or whatever, but it must be crazy for a guy like Dylan Brooks after that to deal with anytime his phone, like if he was to open up anything or a family member was to open anything, like the level of hatred that would be coming your way. I think that we actually do tend to underestimate that at times because whenever athletes show it, it usually looks a little bit like nobody say anything about me and, look at the worst of the worst that I've taken out of this. And people go kind of groan at it and they say, oh, but you're a millionaire. I actually think that I'm a little bit more sympathetic to it now than I used to be anyway, or so that my natural reaction to seeing guys post or share some of it has been in the past. My point is that it does come with a lot of risk and risk that you can't just escape by leaving the stadium, right? It's something that can follow you home now.
Sure.
But I do wonder if you think, do you think any athlete looks at him right now and says, this is the way to do things? Like, are we going to run out of Bryce Harpers? Will we continue to see Bryce Harpers? Like, will we always have these dudes who are unafraid to be themselves on the playing field?
I think so. I think, honestly...
Because it feels like less, you would admit, right? Like, it doesn't... And if you look at, like, the ages of the guys, like, we're watching the game the other night, and it's like Corey Perry and Ryan Reeves are going at it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they're John with each other, and Corey Perry's pointing out to the stands, and... Just saying, I don't see a lot of that from the Gen Zs.
Well, so you're saying, because the argument would be that, okay, so there's a push and pull, right? The one side is that the younger players grew up in the age of the GIFs and the YouTube clips, and that their sporting, the way they understand sports is framed through that it has been acceptable throughout that.
No, the bigger reason that I was thinking about is I was talking to Versteeg yesterday, and I was mentioning how Bedard is a little bit of a Sid clone in the sense of the way he approaches media. And he went, well, you know what? At least he has Instagram and Twitter, and he knows how to market himself on social media. And I went, oh, right. That's such a huge part of being an athlete now is the way you market yourself through socials. And when those guys were coming up, like the Bryce Harpers of the world, who are still younger than us, But social media wasn't like the number one thing in their lives. Like it was being an athlete, and it was, hey, I go into the game and I'm with my teammates and I do the thing. Like, I think about the Matt Stafford clip where he's coming in and he's talking about, or his wife says that he can't relate to some of his teammates. And I think that part of the great divide is, I was just thinking about it last night, is what Versteeg said, which is a lot of these athletes that are now aging out of sports, their first thought isn't what's going to happen to me on the internet. It's kind of a secondary thing. For Corey Perry not to have Twitter, I don't think he cares. For Corey Perry to worry about social media, I don't think he cares as much. But it's just not a realistic proposition for a kid that's coming up right now to not think about what that does for you if it goes wrong.
Yeah,
like, okay,
but you can also
did you watch Dylan Dennis fight?
No.
Okay, yeah. So he just didn't want to get knocked out.
Right.
And the whole point of him not wanting to get knocked out is that he didn't want to be a meme on the internet. And he's a troll and he wanted to spin it his own way. And this is an extreme example of this. But I do think that there is a bit of an underlying don't end up on the internet as a joke for a long. Like you don't want to be a joke. You don't want to be a meme.
Sure, that's the way I would go about it because I'm a coward.
Yeah,
but like
totally.
if you're a
when we were talking about kiss asses, by the way, you and Mackie might actually be related in some way. Like you might have some kind of, because you're both like very.
And maybe once it happens to you the first time, you get a little bit gun shy. But I would like to think that pro athletes go into it at least the first time thinking, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be flamboyant. I'm going to be my true self because I know I'm going to succeed. And it's going to only add to the experience when people look at me come through in the clutch moment and also have this incredible celebration. I don't think like the default setting for pro athletes is like, I better not celebrate because this could be thrown back in my face.
Celebrate. I think it's like talk trash and be complete, like really flamboyant.
Yeah, but do you think like anybody would go into that situation who's gotten themselves to the spot of being a pro athlete in a notable position with the thought of, hey man, this could go sideways? I think they only think positively.
No, I really, I know they don't. Like 100%. Confirmed.
I know
they do
Dylan
not.
Brooks doesn't now because he's experienced it, but Dylan Brooks did, right?
No, I just wonder if there's going to be, and I've said this before with hockey in terms of guys who play really physical and guys who play with an edge, how there's going to be a market inefficiency for those guys. That if you even do that a little bit, you'll have your stock bumped up because fewer and fewer guys are doing that. And yeah, there's less of a value on someone who can fight and hit and play nasty because maybe you take a penalty. And there's so much more skill in the game that a power play is more dangerous, all of these things. But if you have that, it's now something fewer people have. Whereas in the olden times, let's say the 1990s, the early 2000s, if you were a rough and tumble kind of guy, there was a billion of you out there, right? You couldn't make the NHL. It was like you had to fight a billion times. There's lots of guys who can't skate, who can't check. It's like, no, the skill guys, now we're just entering an era where there's way more skill, way more speed, way more skating, all of this stuff. And I kind of wonder the same thing in terms of athletes who hopefully don't have to force it too much, because I think that when it's forced, it ends up. The cool thing about Bryce Harper, why I think he's cool, even though he's not, like we've agreed, he's kind of not, is that he's unapologetically himself. And I think anybody who's that is cool. Like I'm always looking at people and saying, yeah, it's, and this is part of, this has already happened many times, but you look at it where it's like nerd culture became cool, right? It's like it's cool to be yourself. And I think Bryce Harper, none of this is forced. And all I can think is, in an era of marketability or wanting to have a little bit of that, it's like being yourself and taking that risk also has the beyond reward of this. Because Yordan Alvarez is the best hitter in the playoffs right now. It's not Bryce Harper. The most dangerous guy at the plate where you go...
Nick Castellanos on his own team is having a better postseason than him.
That's it. But Yordan Alvarez is genuinely... He got struck... what's his name? Struck him out 3 times.
Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah.
Jordan Montgomery struck him out 3 times in the last game. And I was watching it. And the reaction I had after the third one was like, this must be how they felt watching the moon landing. Yeah. Like, I never thought this would ever happen in my life, that this guy would get 3 straight strikeouts against what I feel is the most dangerous hitter on the planet right now. Bryce Harper, you're right. He's having a great playoffs. He's having a spectacular playoffs. The 2 home runs in the same game, amazing moment. But it's the attitude and it's the being himself and it's the personality that's putting him out there that has catapulted him into a completely different stratosphere in terms of fan interest.
Yeah, and I think if you were a young player, again, you can't be calculated about it. It's not like you're going to turn your personality into Bryce Harper, but if you were debating whether or not to show your true self, yeah, you could look at what's happening with Bryce Harper. I think your natural inclination being a pro athlete would be to look at the positive story of Bryce Harper as opposed to the negative one with the Dylan Brooks, and it's a different deal what we're talking about here, like being, talking through the media about one of the all-time great players in LeBron James, like Dylan Brooks did, as opposed to, like standing and admiring a home run. Like the positive thing has already happened. Like you hit a home run.
Dylan Brooks was trolling, though. He was doing what Dylan Dennis does.
Yeah.
And like part of it is being himself, but part of it also is that he was genuinely trying to be a wrestling villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was taking more a page out of, I don't know, who's a wrestler that's bad?
A bad wrestler? Like,
Mike, what's P?
What?
What's the guy?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going to say a wrestler, but.
Hey, Mackie, who's the main guy in wrestling right now in AEW? Or what's the one?
WWE, because we do WWE.
Sure,
It is,
whatever.
Roman Reigns.
He's not a good bad guy.
He's the top heel, for sure.
No,
He's a heel
stinks.
now?
Been
You know
a heel for a
You know
while
who I'm
since they
thinking
met.
about? The guy who wears Gucci
God.
stuff.
Okay. Wow.
Oh,
you
you're
know.
talking about MJF.
MJF.
Like, we
Oh
know
my
when
God.
I'm
I had-
Never heard of this person
Yes,
in
you
my
have.
whole
Yes,
life.
you have.
No,
He's amazing.
I haven't.
He's actually amazing.
No, I don't
No,
know who this
I
person is.
genuinely.
Wow.
This guy is,
You're maybe a wrestling guy.
dude. This guy's incredible.
You and Blake Murphy should maybe
Dude,
start your own
I'm telling you,
podcast.
the odd guy. There's every once in a while there's a wrestler that can come out and just cut promos where it's the same thing with Wembanyama, where you can sit someone down and go, look at this freak. He's incredible. I don't need a background in wrestling to know that this guy cuts the best promos I've seen since probably CM Punk before him.
What's his name?
MJ
Oh, yeah.
Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
MPJ?
MJF.
MJF. I got the Denver Nuggets on my brain, all right? I can't get Michael Porter Jr. out of him. I was like, it's Michael Porter Jr. It's Michael Porter
I
Jr.
literally just asked you to see
Anyway,
if you remembered.
couldn't remember.
For like 15 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not going
prior.
to watch him wrestle, but here's the thing. He's the number one, to go back to the clippable YouTube guys, if I see MJF has a thing on my Twitter feed and they're like, oh my God, MJF cut a promo, I'm watching it. Even though I have no idea who he's talking to, what he's talking about.
Yeah.
MJF.
Or his name. Yeah.
No, I know him. I know him.
I know him. Yeah, you know
I've
him.
never seen him wrestle,
Yeah,
but
I know him.
But I know him. Don't say I don't know MJF.
Yeah, you know him.
All
Know
right?
him. MJF.
Anyway, all right,
okay.
okay,
He's
come
on my
on.
radar.
Yeah.
No, Bryce Harper is the face of baseball. I can't believe we're having the face of baseball.
No, I don't care about
discussion.
that. It's more the conversation was more some kind of half-baked idea about, I just, this is what sports fans loves. You know, this is what a
Of
sports fan
course.
loves, is a guy, because they also add to it with stakes, right? When
Yep.
it's someone you care about and someone who puts themselves out there, now there's this added stake in sports. And I feel like we've been missing that. And that actually gets into my next topic, which we'll do after the break. But I feel like sports are losing stakes because regular seasons don't really feel like they have stakes. And especially now that there's like less animus amongst the athletes, right?
Yeah.
Like there's less personal storylines, there's less physicality in some of these sports. And so I don't think it's just the stuff about playoffs. I think that there's more to it. And so I'm saying sports just desperately needs more Bryce Harpers. They need more people to be themselves if they want to keep these products going.
And I would like to think, to your point about, fewer and fewer physical players and they stand out more and more and more. Like I do feel like the culture is having a pushback to some certain things.
Yeah.
And I think sports is having a pushback to some things. And, the local baseball team would be wise to have a look at some of the elderly managers that are having success and some of the decision making that is not necessarily paint by numbers when it comes to the Rangers not lifting Nate Eovaldi in the fifth inning with the bases loaded, not out. And I understand the Rangers don't exactly have a bunch of fireballers out of the bullpen that can cover off
and
that
he
many
also
innings.
has the best stats in all of baseball with runners in scoring position.
Sure, but yeah, it looked like he might. The other managers might have lifted him in that moment, and didn't because you know what? Had a feeling. And this guy's proven over the course of his career to be a clutch performer in the postseason.
Speaking of the fun of this postseason and the fun of the Phillies, and when you're talking about advice for the local baseball team, I don't really care who the manager is. The strategy is important. Like, don't ever do that again, what you did. Although now it's the worst because they're going to have a situation someday where it actually requires
What
the
do you
starter to be
want?
lifted.
Yeah.
And they're going to be just paralyzed. This is the problem with making decisions like that, with the pre-planning and making it such a big story, is that now the next time it's a story when it really shouldn't be. It should just be going down to what you actually think is best and go with your gut. Here's one for the Blue Jays this offseason because their defense, they wanted to be team defense, and everyone got all horny for defense, right? Oh, run prevention, run prevention, run prevention. Oh, it's so sexy in the streets. Teams that out-homer their opponents.
Yeah,
Would you like to guess? In the postseason so far?
Probably unbeaten.
17-2 in the postseason, 39-8 in the last two. Just for reference. No, that's not that. Like, I don't like how you said unbeaten. You can have garbage time home runs. All I'm saying is that the Blue Jays version of "Don't worry, we'll be the small ball team and we'll be the defense team,"
Well,
and the idea that was going to work, like they could be the new Kansas City Royals with the bullpen. It's an outrageous position to actually be in. You know what's good? Probably keeping the guys who hit the home runs is what I would say. Anyways, let's take a quick break. Let's come back. Is the MLB regular season dead? So MLB teams with the 5 best records were 1-12 in the postseason.
Yeah.
And
The Braves won that game, though. What a game that the Braves won.
You and I were big proponents of don't expand the playoffs because we were worried about exactly this, is that baseball had this really cool thing going, which is it didn't matter who won because it was all the best teams that were in there. So if you were in the postseason, if you won the World Series, awesome. You belonged. You were supposed to be in the postseason. Now they've expanded it to the point where that Blue Jays team got in, and we were going, well, they could win because they have the starting pitching. And you know how horrible it would be for baseball, like this 89-win Blue Jays team that in any other year.
The Diamondbacks are in the NLCS. They won 84 games.
Buddy, that's what I'm saying. It's like we've got, and to me, part of what is the Phillies are so fun that it's almost like unbridled joy. But it would be a little bit more fun if they were playing a team that was good at baseball.
They did in the last.
Yeah,
series.
I know. I'm just saying that this obviously bad Diamondbacks team got hot, right?
Yep.
And now they've lost the 2 games with the 2 starting pitchers that they have, and now it's like, who's going out there for Game 3 for the Diamondbacks?
Well,
They're both.
Merrill Kelly is no like great shakes.
But that's what I mean. But he's at least quality, and I thought they lifted him way too. There was this manager on the Diamondbacks. I think he's high. I think he's totally he's smoked himself.
Former Blue Jay.
He's just out there. He's like, now? Anyway, does baseball have to tinker with the postseason to make the regular season more meaningful? Because the last thing that baseball can have is removing the one sport that the regular season was supposed to really mean something. Winning a pennant was really supposed to mean something. You can't have this. And I don't think that the buy in baseball is all that great. Like, yeah, okay, you get to line up your pitchers, but every hitter that I've talked to and every even pitcher that I've talked to is going...
No, there's numbers now to back it up that, like, the rust thing is
that
real in a timing sport.
Yep. 100% in the timing sport. And then you have these wild card series where they go, don't worry, the games are here, and who cares? Anyway,
home field advantage has meant less this season than ever before.
So it's just, how do they figure this out? Because right now, what I would say, if they keep going like this, I don't think it's working.
Yeah, they're not. This is it. No, there's no changing it. We've passed the Rubicon here. Like it's it. It's every other sport now.
But it's not removing teams. It's not removing teams. The question comes down to, do you start giving teams a win advantage, like one game that you have to win less?
In Korea, they do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the only solutions are...
But then you're eliminating games. You are taking money out of the pockets of Major League Baseball, right? Like you're eliminating a game. If you're saying it's a 5-game series and one of the teams starts up 1-0 you could potentially have
so then still make
2 more games.
I would say then still make it a 5-game series, but the other team has to win game 6 or whatever. Like, or it doesn't work, but some kind of a math where the other team has to win more games.
Yeah, I guess.
Like the threshold, you got to win. If you're the team with the best record in baseball and you're playing in the ALCS, you got to win 1 game and they're out versus, you know what I'm saying here? Like figure out some formula.
They're not going to do it. I think what you have to come to...
This is a nightmare because this is how all these sports end up in the position they're in right now.
That's it. No, we're going to have have load management, right?
Yeah.
Again, Major League Baseball, it's coming. 100%. If an 89-win team can get into the postseason, if an 84-win team can get into the postseason...
That's the thing that's most infuriating about the Blue Jays, where people went, well, they went into the postseason this year, so you have to say that the season was a somewhat success. I'm like, they didn't really make the postseason. They win no games. They didn't belong to be there, and they sucked. Like, they won 89 games. They were not a playoff team.
No, but this is it. You're going to have more hardos like me make the argument that... and maybe this isn't the worst thing in the world, that... You just look back at the 162-game season. You look at the pennants won, the division winners, and say, that was something. Like, that, we'll celebrate that.
No.
And that's champagne celebration. I know
That's
the hockey
embarrassing.
hardos who get upset that every team has a champagne celebration
Well,
for clinching
now
the
if you
playoffs.
make the wild card and you have a champagne celebration, that's embarrassing.
Dude, okay, so then maybe we're onto something. That's at the very least, no champagne celebrations unless you win your division.
So this is what you think is going to cure baseball? No, how about this? How about this? If you are in the wild card and you're the home team, especially if you're the division winner, and I know that whatever, they're going to get rid of the divisions. What if or if you're the team that's hosting home field for the ALDS or the NLDS, you start the game up 2-0.
And it's not. It's so weird though. It's like I'd rather do that. You get a game advantage than like that's like you start a game with weird.
Well, you said you don't want to remove games potentially, but it's like you're supposed. That team's. Here's the thing: you're supposed to remove games anyways because the other team is supposed to win. Yeah. I like it where the good teams win, where the teams that end up at the end are the good teams. This has been one of my problems with hockey for forever. Is like
then
you
don't
just
have
get
playoffs.
No, have playoffs.
But that's the nature of the tournament, right? That's the nature of tournament play in any sport. It's never the same sample as playing for 6 straight months, whether it's 82 games or 162. It's never going to be the same.
I need someone smarter than me to come up with solutions for this because right now it's not working. Like this isn't working, and it's not working in any sport. Like it's just not.
Let the higher seed use aluminum bats. It's a horrible idea.
No, I know it's the worst
That's
idea.
like fatal. Like, yeah.
I know. I was gonna say the first guy,
Bryce Harper.
No, I just pictured you
130 mile an hour exit velocity.
I was gonna say quickly. So one of my first things that I ever worked professionally in sports was I did a CBC Sports Day in Canada. I think I've told you the story. And I went and this guy was trying to start this rugby sevens league. And because I was part of the media for this, which was not extensive, right? It's where, remember CBC Sports Days in Canada where they had all the sports across the country and it was a full day of sports. And I'm there with the rugby sevens guy and he's just all day going, oh, dude, this rugby sevens going to take off. It's such a sick sport. And I'm a child, so I'm like, yeah, this is going to be amazing. And one of the first plays of the game, one of the guys on, it's Canada versus USA, and they're going to be on national television. And he's like, we've got everything sunk into this moment. And one of the first plays of the game, one of the players gets a compound fracture on the field, like a horrific injury, bone through the skin, everything. The ambulance has to come out on the field. They have to do like minor surgery just to move him, right? It's horrible. But this delays the game by hours. So they're just off the television schedule. It's over for them. And I'm watching this guy's entire sporting investment flash before his eyes. That would be you, the first comebacker with the aluminum bat. Where you be standing.
God.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. The baseball hits some pitcher in the shins, and he's just screaming, and he's looking at you in your luxury box up there like, it is horrified. Security's got to escort you out. Form a shield. Get him out of here. Get Commissioner Ben out of here. Anyway, that's a bad idea, but somebody come up with something better because we need sports to change. We can't have regular seasons be meaningless and then playoffs just be a crapshoot. It's not good. It's not good for the future of sports. Yeah, it's not good. We got to figure something else out.
Move to England.
Nah. Soggy. Seems just soggy there.